It's been a rough week for Microsoft Flight Simulator thanks to Sim Update 14. What was anticipated as a big update to the sim turned out to be an awkward experience for many simmers. The whole situation is bad enough then that Microsoft have had to issue an incident report citing that we realise that 2 major updates in a row, which were each marred by deployment issues, has resulted in a loss of trust from our player community. The second case they refer to is Sim Update 13, which suffered similar problems back in September. Now, when both of these sim updates released, they created a situation where it was virtually impossible for many people to actually download the updates. In fact, this went so far as for some people even claiming that the update process broke their sim installs. Microsoft's 1500-word report contains a graph that shows how extensive this problem actually was. We can see here then at the point at which Sim Update 14 was launched. The blue line shows successful downloads, and we can see the number of successful downloads increases to coincide with the update's release. Very quickly though, within less than 30 minutes, we can see the white line, or what actually looks like a pale blue line to my eyes, rapidly increases. This line represents failed downloads. This is where the real issue actually took place. It's caused by 503 errors, which means service not available. The takeaway from all this then is that the download servers were effectively unavailable, and I'll get to why in just a moment. So if we look at the graph again, we can see that just before 7 PM UTC, Microsoft changed the parallel download threads from 8 to 1. This is the number of connections your computer makes to the download servers. The more connections you have, the faster your download will be. But changing the connections down to 1, Microsoft slowed down the rate the update could be downloaded at. And this had the benefit of relieving stress from the servers, but it didn't actually fix the problem. It also meant that people were stuck downloading the sim at a far lower or slower rate. Now we can see the actual fix occurred a little bit later on in the day, around about 8 PM UTC. So that was Sim Update 14, but unfortunately there isn't a graph to depict how things went down with Sim Update 13. However, the problems with both updates were effectively caused by very similar problems. So we're going to get into exactly what went on there. However, the incident report from Microsoft is very much on the technical side, and whilst it will be helpful for some people I'm sure, I think for most people, me included, it was way too dense, but it's good to have this information nonetheless. Either way, I've gone through it all, and what I've done here is break it down to make it into a much clearer explanation, at least I hope so. So when you open up Flight Sim to download an update, much like Sim Update 14, the sim will connect to the download servers, and this server will be part of a content delivery network, otherwise known as a CDN. This is a network of servers around the world which ensures that even distribution of the data actually occurs. It allows for people to effectively download the update regardless of where they live. Now think of the CDN as a series of local stores that get their products from a central warehouse. In this case, the central warehouse is what we call the Azure Blob Storage Account, and this is a part of Microsoft's service known as Azure PlayFab. Now normally, when you request a download, the CDN fetches it from the central storage and delivers it to you. So to ensure that only authorized users can download updates, the system uses something called a Shared Access Signature, or a SAS token. These tokens are like special passes given to the users, allowing them to download the update, the users in this case being the servers. Normally, these passes should be issued sparingly, like new pass being created every several hours. So basically, the download servers can get updated content from the central storage, and they need these tokens to do that. However, during the release of Sim Update 13, there was a glitch. Instead of creating a new token every few hours, as they should, the system started creating new tokens every few seconds for each download request. And this is like the central warehouse suddenly issuing a new delivery order for every few seconds instead of every few hours. Each of these new orders, these tokens, told the CDN that there was new content to fetch from the central storage, even though it was the exact same content, there was nothing new there. But the CDN went to try and retrieve it nonetheless. This resulted in the CDN repeatedly pulling the same file over and over again, leading to a traffic jam in the system. The problem got worse when a lot of players started downloading the update at the same time. It's like a sudden rush hour where everyone's trying to get the same product from the same local stores, the CDNs, but the central warehouse, the Azure Blob Storage, is overwhelmed with too many orders. To fix this, the PlayFab engineers changed the system so that new tokens were generated less frequently, in this case every 15 minutes instead of every few seconds. On the Flight Simulator side, They also limited the number of simultaneous downloads, as we mentioned earlier, for each player to ease the pressure on the network. Eventually, these changes helped in stabilizing the system, and players were able to download the update successfully. However, it was discovered that there was deeper issues in the system's way of handling these tokens, which hadn't been noticed until this incident. In short, the update release faced a hiccup due to technical glitches in how download permissions were being handled, leading to a system overload, but with some adjustments made by Microsoft and, the whole Play Azure team there, they were eventually able to get things back on track. And really, this should have been the end of things. Sim Update 13 and those fixes there to the download servers should have made things good for the future. However, Sim Update 14 experienced almost the same problem. Released on the 5th of December, Sim Update 14 immediately encountered issues. Unlike last time, however, the problem wasn't just the token system, but hitting the maximum data transfer limit from their central storage, and this led to many users encountering the service unavailable error that we mentioned early on. Microsoft's initial response was to limit the number of simultaneous downloads per user, and while this reduced the number of errors, it didn't completely solve the issue. It did slow down the rate at which people could download as well. At that point, the PlayFab team decided to take a deeper analysis of the whole system and found out that the real issue with the token system was the shared cache, which hadn't been properly fixed with the last update. So they worked on a more comprehensive solution, fixing the shared cache and making sure that the tokens were being generated correctly, only one per content and renewed only when needed about every 48 hours. So that's all fixed now, and that actually resulted in people finally being able to download Sim Update 14 correctly. Now, Microsoft assure everyone that this will be the final solution to the entire problem, that in future people should be able to download without the issues that were encountered with Sim Update 13 and Sim Update 14. In both of these cases, those were significant problems which really did prevent people from getting the updates. Now, there is another issue here, of course, a wider issue which probably plays a little bit into the whole trust issue that Microsoft mentioned, and it is the fact that the Sim has always had download problems ever since day one. Their download manager seems to be very poor. This is something Microsoft have spoken about a little bit relatively recently. It seems ultimately there's not a whole lot they can do about that when it comes to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. But they've said that the whole process, process of downloading things is going to be completely overhauled when it comes to Flight Sim at 2024, and when that's released, things should be much better in this regard. So, good news, as I've said before, for anyone who's going to be on Flight Sim 2024, but not so good for people on Flight Sim 2020. Ultimately, my takeaway from all of this, and it may be slightly wrong, it's certainly just a personal opinion at any rate, is that Microsoft have fixed the massive problems that were seen with updates 13 and 14, and that should stop all these massive logjams that we've been seeing. But it seems they may not have fixed, at least not yet, or may not be able to fix full stop, the problems that people have been having since day one with the very slow download speeds, and that seems to be a bit of a separate issue. At any rate, that's everything as we know it right up to this moment. Do let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Did you actually experience any of these problems? I know from a previous video, a whole bunch of people, when I asked, let me know about their download speeds, and a lot of people said in general their download speeds are pretty slow. Is this further question, has this been limited to updates 13 and 14, or is this a problem you've had all along? Again, let me know in the comment section below because I'd really like to know. Meanwhile, thanks for watching, and do check out these other videos on the screen right here.